Alright, we are back with another video. Sorry it took a while. I had bad allergies. I actually still have some allergies. So, yeah, I'm slowly getting better. But anyway, today's what if is, if you can see the title, what if Mariah joined the Stardust Crusaders? Now, how would this hypothetical JoJo what if go had we put Mariah on the Stardust Crusaders? Well, let's see how the franchise would play out if we put Mariah into the group. So anyway, let's stop talking. Let's actually get to the what if. But before I get to the Mariah what if, I gotta give thanks to the person who requested this, whose name was Joseph, but I don't even remember how to pronounce the rest of his name, as he did request a couple what ifs in the past. So thanks to him for request. Sorry, allergies still acting up, but anyway, thanks for the request, and I pray that I'm able to get this video out to be justice. So hopefully you enjoy it, and I hope other people enjoy it as well, but I hope you enjoy it the most. But anyway, let's get to the actual what if. So going into Stardust Crusaders, most of the stuff's gonna really be we're talking about here is mostly around the ending. So I'm gonna go through every arc in this timeline, but just through the arcs that are gonna change. So obviously everything that's been established in the canon, like from the very beginning all the way until the Anubis fight, everything goes the same as it canonically does. By the way, I'm gonna be distracted because I recently got a new cat. So yeah, she'll distract me while I'm doing this. But I did recently get a new cat, so she's gonna probably be very distracting during this, but it doesn't matter. She's a cutie. That right, baby? But anyway, back to the video. When it comes to Stardust Crusaders, Mariah. When it comes to Mariah being in Stardust Crusaders, having her join would be a really hard one to do. Like motivation wise, canonically she only joined because Dio was hot to her, and I guess she'd have to just find someone who's very attractive to outdo Dio. That or just have to be a fleshbook situation where Joseph and Avdol would have to spot it. Not only that, but they would also have to change out the defeat because in the canon, she got sandwiched to death by a bunch of cars. Granted, she wasn't killed, but she was literally sandwiched by a bunch of stuff. So overall, it would be really hard to save Mariah there. Um, crap. Oh no, she's playing with the headphone. Oh man. She's still a baby, so it's yeah. It's my new cat. She's now she's playing with the headphone. Oh crap. She's kind of screwing up with the video. Sorry if I'm getting distracted, but yeah, she's a problem. Uh oh. Oh crap. Stop it. Stop, Roxy. No. No, Roxy. No. Jeez. Babies, right? Anyway, uh when it comes to the what if, actually trying to get into the what if, as long as you don't distract me, you little turd. But when we're talking about the what if and everything that goes on with it, so starting off, we go with the Mariah fight first, aka the first fight that's obviously going to include change. So when it comes to Mariah, she is gonna obviously still be defeated as she canonically was, but we would also have to rewrite a way for her to also join the Stardust Crusaders. Now, for starters, her defeat is going to have to be altered because, you know, how she got defeated. She literally got sandwiched by two cars. So, by that logic, we would have to prevent that from happening. Maybe Avdol can just hit a crossfire hurricane, or Joseph can just use his hormone, and one of them can just knock her out without having to crush her. Another change is that we also need a motivation for Mariah to turn good. Her motivations for turning evil was because Dio was attractive. That's literally it. She just considered Dio extremely attractive, and that's why she became evil. So you'd have to up the ante and find a new reason for her to want to do it. I don't know what the Crusaders could offer her that Dio couldn't. Maybe actual promise of an actual good love life. Who knows? Um, but somehow we get Mariah joining the Crusaders. Now, when it comes to how her character would play in the events of the story, let's be honest, Polnareff would probably just hit on Mariah, like for the most part. Uh, Joseph's Joseph's relationship with Mariah would be interesting. It's hard to predict that one. Jotaro probably doesn't even care about her. And Avdol, I don't really think would trust her at first, but would eventually get along with her. Um, when it when it comes to the rest of the story, though, so there's not many fights afterwards. There's only a few, and I'm just gonna go through each fight. The next fight was the Alessi fight, and this fight goes the same since it's just Jotaro and Polnareff as Joseph, and as the Mariah fight actually was taking place around the same time as the Alessi fight. So, in other words, we could do both arcs at the same time. When it comes to the fight with what was his name? With older Darby, I don't think nothing would honestly change here either. Then again, the arc could just be skipped since Mariah would already know where Dio's mansion is, so they can just skip over that. But assuming older Darby has to go again, they have to go against older Darby. Maybe Polnareff still bets with him for different reasons, and then still loses his soul, thus causing them to go against Darby. I don't think nothing would change. Uh, Probably Mariah can do something cool here, but I don't think she'd be doing anything here at all. That's really that important. I think the events of this fight is going to be the same, and I feel like nothing would really change in Stardust Crusaders when it comes to the Derby fight. So that fight goes the same. After that is Whole Horse and Boingo, and that also goes the same. Nothing would honestly change here. So we still get Whole Horse and Boingo's arc, and we still get those funny adventures with them. We still get the funny adventure with them, and that's really it. Next is Pet Shop, and Pet Shop would still go against Iggy. This was a solo fight for Iggy, and this still more or less resumes the same, I would assume. Afterwards, Kakyoin still makes his return with his cool new sunglasses and all that. And obviously, another thing that we have to talk about is, would Mariah already know Dio stand the world? Um, that is an interesting question we could talk about now, because we are at Dio's mansion, so it'd be the best part to bring it up now. And it's mainly due to the fact that only a few of Dio's minions actually know his real ability. Like, Kakyoin and Polnareff never knew about the ability, to my knowledge. Unless they did, but once the flesh bug got removed, it's possible that they could have forgotten about it. It's hard to say there. But we do know canonically that older Dark, the only few villains that do know about it, or the only closest, or the people, like the only close people about it who know Dio stand for a fact are Inya, as seen during the Steely Dan arc, older Darby, as seen during his panic scene with Jotaro put up Dio's stand to be revealed during the wager, and Pucci also knew as Dio had told him, and Pucci had previous knowledge of it. And excluding Pucci, and just sticking to the Stardust Crusaders enemies, only those two knew for a fact. And it's most likely younger Darby probably knew, seeing how Dio valued younger Darby more. And Vanilla Ice probably knew as well, due to their close relationship. And that's it. Whether or not Mariah knows is honestly a tough one to say. Since Mariah would be part of the Crusaders, since Mariah would be one of the top Dio agents, I wouldn't be surprised if Dio gave her that kind of knowledge, but it's hard to say. When it comes down to how the story would probably go when it comes to Mariah here, the rest of the story wise, the next thing would be younger Darby, and Mariah would likely. I don't think Mariah is going to get dragged into the gaming dungeon with Joseph, Jotaro, and Kakyoin, since the only reason Kakyoin and Joseph ended up getting dragged down was because they were trying to save Jotaro, who went after younger Darby and got pulled in, and that's why those three got trapped in. And Mariah has no way to try to stop that from happening. So So by that logic, this leaves Mariah with Avdol, Iggy, and Polnareff for the Vanilla Ice fight. Younger Darby goes the same, so we're skipping that fight. And then when it comes to the fight with Vanilla Ice, Mariah would not be able to save Avdol, obviously. I'm going to say Avdol's death is inevitably gonna still happen. So unfortunately, Avdol dying uh much is going to be a unfortunate reality. Unless you switch around Mariah and Avdol, but I don't think that would happen. I'm gonna assume Mariah still dies. I mean, not Mariah, but Avdol still dies, which I think would be the case. To be honest, I like Mariah more, so I'd probably rather her live. Even though I'd like her more, I do wish Avdol deserved to live, but I don't know. I just gonna keep Mariah alive because I think she's cooler. So yeah, this would leave Mariah to be teaming up with Polnareff and Iggy. And with the three of them together, I actually think they would be able to defeat Vanilla Ice. Mariah likely has knowledge of how Vanilla Ice works, so she can give that information to the crew. Granted, this also may lead to Vanilla Ice targeting Mariah more. Not only that, but with Dio's Mansion, it's possible Mariah could just use her magnet abilities to pull Polnareff and Iggy out of situations without them being killed by Vanilla Ice or getting hurt. And not only that, but since Iggy's stand canonically controls sand, and since sand is made out of metal and stuff and iron, this could just lead to Mariah just ragdolling the crew around. Like, after everyone becomes magnets, just have Iggy sand just float around and just have everyone just get ragdoll around the floor while trying to look for a way to kill Vanilla Ice. Um, that's honestly all I could really see happening. The rest of the Vanilla Ice fight, I do think Vanilla Ice would eventually get defeated by the three of them, probably by getting outsmarted, and this would also lead to Iggy being alive and Polnareff not even really being hurt that badly. After this is the Dio fight, and obviously the encounter with Dio in the beginning goes the same, and everything most likely goes the same at this point. The only difference is that both Iggy and Mariah are now going to be with Joseph, Jotaro, Kakyoin, and Polnareff during this point. And when it comes to how this storyline would go and how the fight would go, it honestly depends on if Mariah knows the world's ability. When it comes to whether Kakyoin lives or dies as well, I'm leaning more toward him as a survivor. If Mariah already knows Dio's stand, then Kakyoin is guaranteed to live. That's like a for fact. But if we're going with the assumption that Mariah does not know the world, I mean, he could still live. They're just gonna have to play their cards right, in my opinion. I would personally like Kakyoin to live, so I would probably try to make it so that the crew play their cards right to a good enough point that they can save Kakyoin. So, in my opinion, that's probably what I'd rather do. Maybe have Mariah and Kakyoin work together. Maybe have this be a timeline where Mariah knows Dio's stand, and this can lead to them working together to go against Dio. Have Iggy use his sand clones as well, and the three of them can just trick Dio out. Though they would lose at the end, this would be a much cooler scene for them, in my opinion. So, yeah. That's honestly all I really could see happening here, and that's really all I have here for this kind of storyline. When it comes to part 3, I do feel like Dio is still going to get defeated the same way. And the only casualty in Stardust Crusaders in this timeline would end up being Avdol. So we would still have Joseph, Jotaro, and Polnareff because they were the canon survivors. But we have Mariah, who's now an ally, and is one of the survivors. And we also have Iggy, who survived the Vanilla Ice fight, and Kakyoin, who survives the Dio fight. So we would end up having a lot more survivors thanks to Mariah this timeline. Now, when it comes to Diamond is Unbreakable, Part 4, this and Part 5 are hard to say because it generally depends on where Mariah goes next. So I'll explain it like this. After the events of Part 3, Jotaro and Polnareff went on this investigation to look into the stand arrows because of being the way the stands are created, and that led to a wild goose chase of a lot of stuff happening. This ended up leading to playing big roles to why Jotaro shows up in Morio to collect 2 of the stand arrows, and also plays a big role in the stand arrows in Part 5, aka Italy. So with all of that knowledge being there with the stand arrows, Polnareff and Jotaro do both own this. Jotaro and Polnareff are obviously going to be together, like in the canon, and obviously they'd split up in the same locations they originally went. But however, with Kakyoin and Iggy alive, they're also going to be joining them in those locations as well. In my opinion, I'm going to say Kakyoin goes with Jotaro since they have a close relationship, and Polnareff and Iggy would just end up going with Polnareff since I feel like after the Vanilla Ice fight, they would have definitely formed some kind of duo. When it comes to Mariah, This one is tough to say, but I'm leaning more toward probably helping Jotaro and Kakyoin out. I don't know. I'm pretty sure she would most likely help Jotaro and Kakyoin out. She would show up in part 4, in my opinion, and I think she would play as a decent mentor role. Um, as for her role in part 4, I unfortunately don't see her doing too much, but I think she could show up for a couple arcs. Like, I can see her in the Cinderella arc for sure, to be as like a mentor to Yukiko. But when it comes to anything else, I can't really see her doing too much. I mean, granted, maybe she'd be useful to Sheer Heart against Sheer Heart Attack, but probably not. I mean, realistically, if she's encountered by Kira, it's game over. Kira is just gonna kill her and take her hands. It's pretty instant like that. I feel Mariah has a good chance of surviving part 4 over part 5, though. Like, if I were to say which part she'd be in and has the best chance of living in, it's most definitely part 4 without a doubt. Like, part 4, there's still a good chance of her dying, but I'd say there's a higher chance of her getting killed in part 5, in my opinion. But yeah, when it comes to part 4, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't be doing too much. I could see her probably even being able to play a role in the final arc with Jotaro and Kakyoin. Uh, I don't think much else would change, and I personally don't think the rest of Diamond is Unbreakable is going to really change at all, except having 2 extra characters and Kakyoin and Mariah being a part of the crew. I could see Mariah maybe taking care of Joseph for most of the part due to him being senile and stuff. Or allegedly. I wouldn't be surprised he was faking it just to avoid paying child support for Josuke. That sounds messed up, but I honestly think he did. But when it comes to Diamonds Unbreakable, I think part 4 more or less just goes the same. That's honestly all I could say for part 4. Nothing I can honestly add else for part 4, and I think the story just more or less goes the same. And that would be it for Diamonds Unbreakable. There's really nothing else I can add to the part. I don't think Mariah nor Kakyoin are dying in this part, so that's really it for part 4. I can't think of anything else to change. Now, when it comes to part 5, Mariah could show up in this part, but probably not. Um, obviously, we can go with the scenario where she goes with Polnareff and Iggy, and if she does that, uh, unfortunately for Mariah, she's gonna end up getting killed by Diavolo in the final fight, most likely. So Mariah would get killed in the final fight if she does go with Polnareff and Iggy. Any case scenario, like let's assume maybe Jotaro sends her to investigate Giorno in the spot of Koichi. Personally, I would stick to Koichi like in the canon, but hey, if you want to go the route where it's Mariah who investigates Giorno, maybe you feel like that's the coolest route scenario. Assuming we do go that route, which I wouldn't, but if we do go that route, I don't think much would change. If anything, I think it'd be easier for Mariah to catch a Giorno. Though it'd probably be harder for her to go against Black Sabbath. I'm pretty sure it'd be easier for her to catch Giorno. Heck, I could even see her being able to capture up to Giorno during the encounter with Bruno, and maybe even helping Giorno against Bruno. Even though I'm pretty sure Mariah wouldn't be much help against Bruno. Bruno is just way too skilled of a fighter, and probably wouldn't have fallen for Mariah's trick, unless Mariah just has gotten better with her stand usages, learning different ways to try to trick people out. Overall, I can't really see Golden Wind changing much, and personally, I would just skip over part 5 and just say the story mostly goes the same, except Iggy would be with Polnareff. And when it comes to the final fight in this timeline with Iggy around, nothing too much would change except that I would personally have Iggy use his sand clone to trick out Diavolo into believing he killed Narantia, when in actuality he doesn't, and Iggy's able to use his sand to save Narantia. This would lead to Diavolo killing Iggy, and this would lead to Narantia also surviving the final fight of Golden Wind in this timeline. Unfortunately, Abakio and Bruno still die, but at least Narantia is able to live thanks to Iggy. And that would honestly be all I could really say here for part 5. The rest of the story is more or less the same in my opinion. The only change is the final fight, and that Iggy's going to be with Polnareff, and that he's going to die saving Narantia. And Narantia would also survive because of that. Alright, we are at the grand finale of the story, Stone Ocean. Now, the beginning half of Stone Ocean obviously goes the same. Jolene gets framed by John Gallier and Pucci. Jolene still gets her stand. Jolene is Jolene and Jotaro fight John Gallier. That is the whole dream stuff still happens. John Gallier is still sold out by Pucci. Pucci steals Jotaro's disc, and Jolene stays in prison to save Jotaro. All of that goes the same. But in this timeline, I would go with the whole thing I normally do with most of my timelines. Kakyoin having a son, and his son being named Tenmei, and him being involved in the story. And then also Josuke and Koichi and Rohan getting involved thanks to that. Now, the question now would be, would Mariah have any kids? I mean, I'm pretty sure she could because she's someone who could definitely have scored a guy. I mean, she's definitely one of the hottest JoJo females when you really think about it. Like both in universe and out universe speaking, she's definitely one of the hotter characters in the franchise. So, I honestly could see her scoring a date. Granted, I don't think she would have ended up marrying Kenny G in this hypothetical timeline. I don't think she would really marry any characters. Unless it's like maybe Polnareff. And that could just leave to Michael existing. You know, the Polnareff OC son for some of the timelines. So maybe he can be in this timeline. If not him, then it's possible that someone else instead she can marry. And then she can have a kid with someone else, some random character off screen. What now? The kid's gender doesn't really matter. I don't think the kid's gonna be in the prison. Probably sent with Tenmei and Tenmei and the Moria Warriors. Sorry about that. Like I said, allergies suck right now. But I think that they would join Tenmei and the Moria Warriors into the prison rather than being part of the prison, so they can join them. Gender doesn't matter, and I don't really have a stand. I don't really have much of an OC idea at the moment. If you have your own OC idea for a Mariah kid, hypothetical son or daughter for Mariah, pitch them in the comments and I can tell you how I feel Stone Ocean would change. But I think if we're running through my normal Stone Ocean timeline, most of the story kind of goes the same. Hermes wouldn't get injured against Sports Max in this timeline. Josuke would be able to heal her up, so that would happen. Hermes would probably die saving FF unless maybe with extra backup Hermes' death is prevented. Probably gonna go with the assumption Hermes still dies since I don't really like her. When it comes to the rest of Stone Ocean, the Dio Suns arc, Ungolo I feel would have extra help, of course. I do think Koichi and Rohan, not Rohan, but Koichi and Okuyasu, and Rohan if you feel like he should be added to the story. I feel like they can help out with Anna Sui and Weather Report during the Bohemian Rhapsody fight, but I don't really think too much would change, except that they're just going to be extra characters for that fight to happen. And I think Mariah's kid can go with Josuke. I think Mariah's kid, Josuke, and Tenmei and FF can go together with Jolene and Emporio to fight the other Dio kids. The Rekill fight mostly goes the same, but after Rekill's defeated, instead of just getting crushed straight after by Hermes, since Josuke would see there being potential in Rekill being redeemed, Josuke would just kill him with Crazy Diamond, and Rekill would just turn good. Now, when it comes to the Donatello fight, I don't think too much would change. I do think they would have to find a different way to survive the plane since Hermes is gone. But I think FF can use their plankton to find a way to get the crew out of the plane by using their plankton along with Jolene's string. I think combining them together, you can find ways to escape by using those two. When it comes to heavy weather, that arc could be prevented, and if they can prevent heavy weather, that could save Weather Report from dying. If they can't prevent Donatello from using Weather Report's memories as a last-ditch effort to save his life, meaning no heavy weather arc, then unfortunately Weather Report will still end up dying in the long term. I'm going to assume Weather still dies, probably, unless you think the Mariah kid can prevent Weather's death, but I don't know. Now when it comes to the final half, like the Sea Moon stuff, Okuyasu and FF both are probably dying to Sea Moon in my opinion. Okuyasu is a sacrifice to save Koichi, and FF as their own sacrifice to fight Pucci off. Maybe with Mariah's kid, I could see one or both of them surviving. Hard to say. If one of them had to live, I'd probably just go with FF. Okuyasu can go sacrifice himself so Koichi can awaken Echo's Act 4, in my opinion. If one of them has to die, then Okuyasu, since I would like for Koichi to get Echo's Act 4 more. And plus, I like FF more than Okuyasu, so it's a sacrifice I'm willing to take. So, yeah. Not guaranteeing FF would live, but it's a possibility. Same with Okuyasu. Mariah's kid could also maybe die to Sea Moon, or maybe even earlier on, but I don't think they would. So, I don't think he or she's going to end up dying to Sea Moon. Made in Heaven would now include Mariah, Kakyoin, and Mariah's kid, and also Tenmei, Josuke, and Koichi as extra characters in this fight. Rikill can go against Made in Heaven like he does in my timelines. Mariah, unfortunately, would not be able to save him, unless he just touches one of the magnets early on and then gets pulled away, but even then, that's probably not how Mariah's magnets work, so I don't think she could save Rikill. Mariah's kid might, depending on what their stand is. It's in the similar case to Weather Report, where maybe they can pull off some kind of miracle and save Rikill. That, or if FF's still alive, then maybe FF can be the one who saves Rikill. But since they don't really have a way to get to water, it would be a lot harder for FF to use their plankton. I mean, I don't know if their plankton bullets can heal from a long way, and it's not really healing. In this case, I think it'd be more of just patching up wounds. Maybe patch up all the wounds from Rikill that could be bleeding out if FF's still alive. But I don't know. That might take a lot of water for them, so they may not be able to patch up all of Rikill's wounds. So I could see Rikill potentially still dying in this timeline, but maybe there's a better chance of him living. It's hard to say. When it comes to the rest of the fight, most of the story going past the whole Rikill sacrifice, whether or not he lives or dies doesn't matter, because he would end up just getting knocked out straight after. So he would not be able to participate for the rest of the Made in Heaven fight. So regarding everything going post that, then in my opinion, I do feel I feel a lot of things would go the same, but I do think Anasui would survive due to Josuke using Crazy Diamond. So Anasui would survive getting donut by Pucci. Plus, it would make a lot of sense since it's implied a lot of characters tend to survive. I mean, like, a big thing in Part 4 was that a lot of characters were able to survive due to them having a strong enough will to live. And that's how Crazy Diamond was able to bring back characters like Okuyasu and Koichi, since they had a strong enough will to live. And in the case of Anasui, I think he would have had a strong enough will to live, mainly due to the fact of his love for Jolene. So, I'm pretty sure he had a strong enough will to live, so he would survive the donut and would end up being able to protect Jotaro still. And with Anasui still alive, he's able to protect Jotaro's head, and then the rest of the Made in Heaven's fight would get to actually continue somewhat, since more characters are around. I do feel the fight would likely eventually end with the universe not resetting due to there being so many characters. But I could definitely see someone sacrificing themselves just for the universe to be saved. As for who, I'm mostly thinking Josuke or Jotaro, like as a Joestar sacrifice. Mariah or Kakyoin are potential choices, but I don't really guarantee them. They'd have less impact as a sacrifice than I'd say Jotaro or Kakyoin did, in my opinion. But when it comes to, I guess, any other previous characters, Koichi could work too, but like Mariah and Kakyoin, while he's a beloved Flash nostalgia character, I don't think he would work. That, and also he literally just got saved by Okuyasu like minutes ago, so him dying already would have been kind of dumb, not gonna lie. Jolene's the main JoJo, and if the universe ain't resetting, then she's saved by plot armor. I'm pretty sure Tenmei or Mariah's kid could work if you want to make it really depressing, but I don't think I'd go that route. And Anasui had already just been saved earlier, so it'd be kind of a waste to throw him under the bus. You could go with Emporio as like a shock twist ending, but I don't think he's going to end up being the sacrifice. I'm just leaning toward Jotaro, Josuke, um, Kakuin or Mariah as the main ones. Mostly Jotaro and Josuke. Kakuin and Mariah as maybes, but I'm thinking Jotaro or Josuke to make the ending a bit bigger. I guess more grand. But that's just my opinion, and that's kind of all I have for Stone Ocean. Give me some ideas for a hypothetical Mariah child in the comments, whether it be a son or a daughter. Give me a stand, give me a personality, and I'll try to write the entirety of Stone Ocean out in a timeline where Mariah's kid is present in the story. If you got any ideas for their personality, their stand, their gender, their name, basic stuff like that, if you can let it all in the comments, I will be willing to write the rest of write down how I could see Stone Ocean going out with this character and some cool stuff I could add in with them and how they can interact with the cast and how they would play out in fights, etc. That's honestly all I could really say there. I'm going to try my best to at least do something like that. If you have any pitches for a Mariah child in the comments. So, yeah. Assuming we don't give Mariah as a kid, then I don't really think nothing would honestly change as a whole. I'm just willing to give Mariah a kid because maybe it could affect the survivors of the part, but I don't really know. That's all I could really say for Stone Ocean. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoy it. And special thanks to you, who I don't have a good job of pronouncing the name of since you're from Italy. You also told me you're Italian, so it's hard to pronounce foreign names for someone like me. But hope you enjoyed it the most. Um, I'm taking a bit of a break on request because I am starting to get a little more request right now. But right now I'm kind of at a point where I'm trying to do more videos soon. I'm glad I was able to get this out on Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone here. Uh, Thankful for you. I'm honestly extremely thankful for all my subscribers to getting the chance to watch this video and for being supportive overall. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'd also be thankful for someone to at least be willing to share their Mariah son or daughter OC in the comments. Whether the child's gender doesn't matter. You could make it a son or a daughter. It doesn't matter to me. Uh, because I'm willing to kind of just write them into the story, no matter what way you write them in. I'll just find a way to write I'll write their personality traits, I'll write the story and how they would affect the plot. Just give me some basic ideas, basic feats on how to scale them, personality traits, their stand, all that kind of stuff, and I can just write the rest going forward. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.